Samuel Crawford stood on his porch at dawn, pocket watch open in his palm. 6:47. The stagecoach was late. February wind cut across the Montana territory like a promise of hardship. Snow crusted the earth in gray patches. His ranch house stood substantial behind him, 2 stories. Good bones. Empty rooms that echoed when he walked them alone. 3 years since Sarah died. 3 years of cooking for one, talking to horses, forgetting what another person's voice sounded like across the breakfast table. The mail order arrangement had seemed practical. A woman needed security. He needed something. Companionship without the vulnerability of courtship. A transaction both could understand. Dust rose on the horizon. Samuel straightened his coat. Touched Sarah's ring in his vest pocket, the one he'd stopped wearing but couldn't bury. His throat went dry. The stagecoach pulled up in a spray of frozen mud. The driver grinned down at him with knowing cruelty. "Your package, Crawford." A woman stepped down, dressed in black, face hidden by a heavy veil. She moved carefully, like someone used to being watched. Samuel approached, prepared greeting dying on his lips. "Mr. Crawford." Her voice was steady, controlled. "I'm Clara Bennett." She lifted the veil. The right side of her face was a landscape of burn scars, puckered tissue running from temple to jaw, pulling her smile crooked, her eyes slightly narrowed. The left side was untouched, almost beautiful. The contrast made Samuel's breath catch. He froze. Every polite word he'd rehearsed vanished. Clara read his face with the accuracy of someone who'd spent years being stared at. Her shoulders set. Her chin lifted. "The agency didn't tell you," she said flatly. "I understand if the contract's void. I can take the next stage east." Samuel's mind raced. He'd imagined someone plain, someone practical. He'd imagined normal. But standing before him was a woman who'd survived something terrible and kept standing anyway. Her eyes held no plea for pity, only exhausted dignity. He heard Sarah's voice, clear as church bells. "Do the right thing. Samuel, be better than your fear. Agreement stands." His voice came out rougher than intended. "Welcome to Crawford Ranch, Miss Bennett." Her surprise was visible, a slight widening of her eyes, a catch in her breath. The driver spat tobacco juice into the snow. "Good luck, Crawford. You'll need it." Samuel ignored him, reached for Clara's small trunk. She moved past him toward the house, back straight despite obvious exhaustion. He watched her walk up his porch steps, into his home, and realized he'd just made a choice he didn't fully understand. The wind picked up. The stagecoach pulled away. Samuel stood alone in his yard, holding a stranger's trunk, wondering what kind of man he was about to become. Clara moved through the Crawford house like she was cataloging a ledger. Torn curtains, dust on every surface. Kitchen sparse bachelor provisions, nothing fresh, floors unswept in weeks. She didn't ask permission, simply set down her small bag and began working. Samuel watched from the kitchen doorway, uncertain whether to help or retreat. She'd shed her heavy coat. Her dress was threadbare but clean, mended in a dozen places with careful stitches. "You don't have to," he started. "Where do you keep the cleaning rags?" She didn't look at him. "Under the basin, but..." She found them, started wiping down the kitchen table. Her movements were efficient, practiced. A woman who'd worked hard for a long time. Samuel cleared his throat. "I'll show you the bedrooms. You should I'll take the maid's room." Clara nodded toward the small room off the kitchen. "That one. That's not... You should have the proper bedroom." She finally looked at him. Her scarred side caught the lamplight. "Mr. Crawford, let's be clear about terms. I'm here to work, keep house, cook, mend. Nothing more is expected or offered. The small room is sufficient." Her words were a wall, carefully built. Samuel wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. She'd already turned back to cleaning, dismissing him without rudeness, just clear boundaries. He retreated to the barn. Dinner was salt pork and beans. Clara cooked with competence that spoke of lean years and empty cupboards conquered through will. They sat across the table from each other. Cutlery scraped loud against plates. "How long have you been alone here?" Clara asked, breaking 5 minutes of silence. 3 years. Wife died. Childbirth. The words came out flat. He'd said them so many times they'd lost texture. "I'm sorry. It was God's will." He didn't believe that anymore, but didn't know what else to say. Clara nodded, said nothing. They finished eating in silence. The marriage license sat on the mantel, unsigned. Both of them saw it. Neither mentioned it. Clara washed dishes with methodical precision. Samuel escaped to the barn, checked horses that didn't need checking. When he finally returned to the house, her door was closed. A thin line of lamplight showed beneath it. Samuel lay in his bed, Sarah's bed staring at the ceiling. He could hear Clara moving in her room. Small sounds. A stranger's presence in his home. He knew nothing about her beyond scars and silence. Nothing about what she'd survived or who she'd been before fire marked her. "What have I done?" he thought. In her small room, Clara stood at the window, looking toward the barn's dark silhouette. She touched her scar's old habit, checking they were still there, still defining her. 1 week, she whispered to her reflection. "If he sends me back, I'll go west. Somewhere no one knows me." She'd survive. She always did. Saturday morning, they rode to town for supplies. Clara wore her veil again. Samuel noticed but didn't comment. The wagon ride stretched silent. Frozen ruts jolted them in rhythm. Clara sat straight-backed, hands folded in her lap. Samuel kept his eyes on the road. As Bitterroot came into view, false front buildings, church steeple. Saturday market bustling, Clara's shoulders tightened. Samuel saw her preparing for battle. They hitched the wagon outside the general store. Conversations stopped as they walked past. Heads turned. Whispers started like wind through dry grass. Mrs. Hartwell, the preacher's wife, intercepted them at the store entrance. Her smile was bright, loud, performative. "Mr. Crawford, and this must be your arrangement." She looked at Clara with exaggerated compassion. "Bless you, dear girl, and bless you, Mr. Crawford, for your Christian charity, taking in the unfortunate." Clara's jaw tightened. Her hands fisted in her skirt. "We need supplies. Mrs. Hartwell." Samuel's voice was flat. Of course, I'll pray for you both." She sailed past, satisfaction radiating. Inside, Clara selected flour, sugar, coffee with quiet efficiency. The shopkeeper's wife stared openly. 2 young women whispered behind the fabric bolts, giggling. Samuel felt heat rising in his collar. Shame not of Clara, but of his town, his neighbors, himself for bringing her into this. Outside, loading supplies. Marcus Dalton blocked their path. Tall, well-dressed, mean-eyed. He owned the Triple D Ranch and thought that made him king. "Heard you bought mail order." Crawford. Dalton's grin was razor-sharp. Didn't know they were running a charity service now. Samuel's hands stilled on the supply sack. Dalton tipped his hat to Clara with exaggerated courtesy. "Ma'am, brave of you to show your face in public, so to speak." Clara's expression didn't change. She picked up a sack of flour, carried it to the wagon herself. "What did that arrangement cost you?" Crawford. Dalton continued. "Or did they pay you to take her off their hands?" Samuel's fists clenched. Words tangled in his throat, caught between propriety and rage, between what was proper and what was right. He said nothing. Clara climbed into the wagon, back straight, face blank. Samuel loaded the last supplies in silence, climbed up beside her. Dalton's laughter followed them down Main Street. The ride home stretched longer than the ride in. Miles of silence. Samuel's knuckles were white on the reins. Clara stared at the horizon. Finally, quietly, she spoke. "You don't owe me defense, Mr. Crawford. Maybe I owe myself one," he said. She looked at him, then really looked. Something shifted in her eyes. Not hope, exactly, but a crack in her armor. That night, Samuel sat at his kitchen table, the marriage license before him. Unsigned. It was just paper, a technicality. He could send her back with no legal obligation. Signed. It was a promise. He thought of Dalton's sneer, Mrs. Hartwell's loud pity, the way Clara had lifted that flour sack alone while he stood frozen. He thought of Sarah, what she would say if she could see him now. Be better than your fear. Samuel. He signed his name, slid the paper across the table. Clara emerged from her room, wrapped in a shawl. She stared at the license, at his signature, bold and black. "Why now?" Her voice was barely audible. "Because I made a promise. I keep my promises." Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen. She signed her name beside his Clara Bennett Crawford. The contract became covenant. Neither knew exactly what kind. March arrived with mud and melting snow. 6 weeks since Clara stepped off that stagecoach. The house had transformed. New curtains sewn from fabric Clara found in the attic brightened the windows. Floors gleamed. The kitchen smelled like bread and coffee instead of dust and neglect. Samuel found himself listening for her movements, the swish of her skirts, the soft humming she did while kneading dough. Small sounds that made the house feel alive. One morning, he came in from checking fences to find his torn winter coat laid across the table. Mended. The stitches were tiny, perfect, stronger than the original seam. He ran his fingers over the repair. "My mother used to stitch like this." Clara looked up from the stove. "Mine too." First shared memory. Small, but it counted. Late March brought an unexpected blizzard. Samuel made it to the barn barely in time, secured the horses, fought his way back through whiteout conditions. They were trapped inside for 3 days. First day, they were careful, polite. Clara cooked. Samuel brought in firewood. They spoke only about necessities. Second day, proximity softened edges. Samuel taught Clara checkers. She was terrible at it, apologetically so. He found himself laughing rusty sound. But real? "You're letting me win," she accused. "I'm trying. You're just that bad." She threw a wooden checker at him. He caught it, grinning. Third day. She read aloud from Sarah's book's poetry. Mostly. Samuel half listened. Mostly watched her. The way she tucked hair behind her ear. The way she got lost in the words. Forgot to be guarded. That evening, she fell asleep in the chair by the fire, book open in her lap. Samuel stood over her. Heart pounding. In sleep. Her face was peaceful. The scars just landscape. She looked younger. Vulnerable. He shouldn't touch her. They had boundaries. Careful distance. He lifted her anyway. She was lighter than expected. Carried her to her room. Laid her gently on the narrow bed. She murmured something. Turned into the pillow. Didn't wake. Samuel stood in the doorway. Hands shaking. He was falling. Terrified. Morning. Clara woke in her bed. Confused. Last thing she remembered was reading by the fire. Her book sat on the nightstand. He'd carried her. Touched her. Been gentle. She pressed her palm where his hands would have been, heart hammering. In the kitchen. Samuel poured coffee with unsteady hands. The ground had shifted. No going back now. April exploded green across Montana. Wildflowers carpeted the meadows. Birds returned, filling dawn with song. The world was rebuilding itself. Samuel and Clara planted the garden together. They worked side by side in the warm soil. Samuel showed her how deep to plant tomatoes. Clara taught him seed spacing from her mother's garden lessons. Their hands moved in rhythm dig. Plant, cover, water. Clara hummed while working. Unconscious. Natural. A tune Samuel didn't recognize. He stopped, leaned on his shovel. Just listening. She noticed. Stopped humming. Sorry. Don't be. His voice was rough. Please don't be. Their eyes met. Held. Clara looked away first, cheeks flushed. Saturday. Samuel rode to town alone. Came back with a package wrapped in brown paper. He set it on the table. Awkward. For you. Clara unwrapped it slowly. Blue calico fabric, soft, new, beautiful. Her eyes filled. She touched it like it might disappear. Samuel. I can't. Not charity. He cleared his throat. Just. You deserve pretty things. She hadn't owned anything new in 8 years. Had forgotten what it felt like to be given something just because. Thank you. Whispered. Heartfelt. That night. She stayed up late cutting pattern pieces by lamplight. Samuel pretended to read. Mostly watched her work. The house felt warm. Full. Evening. They sat on the porch watching sunset paint the sky orange and purple. Clara sewed. Samuel whittled. Comfortable silence. She leaned against his shoulder. Testing. Samuel went absolutely still, barely breathing. She didn't move away. His heart thundered. He turned slowly. His hand rose toward her face-scarred side. His thumb traced her jaw. Featherlight. Clara's breath caught. She didn't flinch. Her eyes searched his. Dark and hopeful and frightened. He leaned closer. Sarah's ghost rose between them. What if you fail her like you failed me? Samuel hesitated. Just a heartbeat, just a breath. Clara felt it like ice water. The doubt, the fear. She pulled back. Stood. It's late. Good night. Samuel. First time she'd used his name. It sounded like goodbye. She disappeared inside. Samuel heard her door close. Lock click. He sat on the porch until midnight, head in his hands, hating himself. Inside. Clara pressed her face into her pillow to muffle sobs. The moment had been perfect. Terrifying. Real. And they'd both let fear win. Next morning. Distance returned. They were polite, careful, breaking quietly. The blue fabric lay untouched on her table. Late April. They rode to town for Sunday supplies. The air felt wrong, tense, expectant. Clara tied up the wagon while Samuel went into the general store. She heard voices around the corner. Mrs. Hartwell and 2 other women. That poor Mr. Crawford, trapped in a marriage of charity. They say she still sleeps in the maid's room. What kind of wife? It's shameful. Really, he deserves better. I heard he can barely look at her. Who could blame him? Clara stood frozen behind the pickle barrels. Nausea rose in her throat. She slipped away before they saw her. Climbed into the wagon. Sat rigid. Hands clenched. Samuel returned with supplies. Noticed her pallor. You all right? Fine. Let's go home. The ride back was silent, but something had broken. Monday morning. Marcus Dalton rode up while Samuel was in the far pasture branding cattle. Clara answered the door. Apron dusty with flour. Dalton smiled. Removed his hat. Mrs. Crawford, mind if I speak plain? Speak however you like, Mr. Dalton, then leave. His smile widened. I like you. Got spine. That's why I'm making this offer. He pulled an envelope from his coat. $500. Enough to go east. Start fresh somewhere no one knows you. Crawford deserves a real wife. Someone he's not ashamed to be seen with. You know it. I know it. This just makes it easier on everyone. Clara's hands trembled. Get off this property. Think about it. He didn't defend you in town. Froze up like a coward. That tell you anything? Dalton tipped his hat. Offer stands through week's end. He rode off, leaving the envelope on the porch rail. Clara stared at it like a snake. Didn't touch it. When Samuel returned at dusk, exhausted and dusty, Clara was packing. What are you doing? She didn't look at him. Do you regret it marrying me? Clara. Just answer. Do you regret it? Samuel's mind was fog. He'd spent 12 hours wrestling cattle, breathing dust, burning brands into hide. He was empty. It's complicated. Wrong answer. Worst answer. Clara's face went blank. I'll make it simple. I'll leave. Maybe. The words came from exhaustion, from fear, from 3 years of being half dead. Maybe that's best. It's not working. He meant my heart's not working. I don't know how to love again. I'm terrified. She heard you're not working. You're a mistake. I want you gone. I'll be out by morning. She finished packing. Samuel stood in the doorway, frozen, pride and fear strangling the truth. He walked to the barn, didn't come back. Dawn. Clara walked to town, small trunk on her shoulder. The house behind her, silent, empty again. Samuel watched from the window, watched her become small on the horizon, watched her disappear. He found the blue fabric on her table, untouched, underneath, a note in careful handwriting. Thank you for trying to be kind. I'm sorry I wasn't enough. Samuel crumpled it, let it fall, didn't pick it up for 3 days. The house exhaled, became tomb again. 1 week without her. Samuel stopped eating properly, stopped shaving. The house was clean but dead. Clara's organization without her presence. He cooked for one again. The silence was unbearable. Saturday. He rode to Sarah's grave. First visit in months. Rain soaked through his coat. He didn't care. I'm sorry, he told the headstone. I thought avoiding love meant avoiding loss. But I lost her anyway. His voice broke. And I lost you too, didn't I? Sarah, by holding on too tight. The rain fell. The grave didn't answer. But something in Samuel's chest loosened. Sarah wasn't holding him back. He was holding himself back, using her memory as shield against risk. I'm still alive, he said aloud. And I've been choosing wrong. Old Moses found Samuel drunk in the barn Sunday night. The ranch hand was 70, tough as rawhide, took no nonsense from anyone. Boy, you're a damn fool. Samuel looked up, eyes red. Go away, Moses. That woman looked at you like you hung the moon, and you let her walk because you were scared. Moses spat tobacco. Sarah would have boxed your ears. Don't talk about Sarah. I knew Sarah longer than you did. Boy, she'd tell you the same thing I'm telling you. Get your head out of your ass and fix this. Samuel tried to stand, swayed. Moses caught him. You think you failed Sarah, maybe. But letting Clara go thinking she wasn't worth fighting for, that's failure. Real failure. And you still got time to fix it. The words landed like hammer blows. Samuel sobered. Slowly. Painfully. Saw clearly for the first time in days he was choosing death over life. Again. Clara sat in the boarding house. Stagecoach ticket to Philadelphia on the nightstand. Departure. Monday morning. Mrs. Hartwell had offered a charity position paid companion to an elderly widow. Kind work. Respectable. The pity prison. Rebuilt with better walls. Clara stared out the window at Bitterroot's main street. Watched families pass. Couples. Normal people with normal lives. She touched her scars. They'd always define her. Always limit her. Maybe that was just truth, but something Moses said to Samuel echoed in her mind. Though she hadn't heard it, that's failure. Staying safe was failure. Accepting less was failure. Running was failure. She'd rather die free on the frontier than live small under their judgment. Clara tore up the stagecoach ticket. She didn't know what came next, but it wouldn't be running. Samuel rode to town Sunday morning, bathed, shaved, Sunday clothes pressed, heart hammering. Clara stood at her boarding house window, saw him ride past, assumed he was going to church, moving on, maybe arranging annulment. Her heart cracked further. But Samuel wasn't heading to regular service. He was heading to truth. Church bells rang. Time for confession. Samuel pushed through the church doors mid-sermon. Every head turned. Reverend Thompson stopped mid-sentence about duty and sacrifice. 50 faces stared. Whispers rose like wind. Samuel removed his hat, scanned the pews, found Clara in back pale, shocked, half risen. His boots echoed on the wood floor. He walked down the center aisle toward her, never breaking eye contact. Mrs. Hartwell clutched her Bible. Marcus Dalton smirked. The whole town held its breath. Samuel stopped at Clara's pew. Clara Bennett Crawford. His voice carried, steady, clear. I'm a coward and a fool. Clara's eyes went wide. I was scared to love again. Scared I'd fail you like I felt I failed Sarah. He stepped closer. But I don't regret one moment since you stepped off that stage. You made my house a home. You made me remember I'm alive. You made me want to be better. Silence. Absolute. I let you walk away because I was afraid. That was wrong. That was cruel. His voice roughened. I'm asking you not as duty, not as contract, but as a man who loves his wife. Come home. Dalton stood, sneering. Crawford, you're embarrassing yourself. For a woman who... For the woman I love. Samuel didn't look at him. Judge her scars, judge mine first. I've been walking dead for 3 years. She had courage to hope when I'd given up. That makes her braver than anyone here. Clara's face crumpled. Tears spilled. You hurt me. I know. You let me go. Worst mistake I ever made. She stepped closer, into the aisle. I'm scared. Samuel. Me too. He held out his hand. So we'll be scared together. She took his hand, scarred side facing the congregation. Visible and unashamed, the church erupted. Some gasping, some whispering. Mrs. Hartwell looked genuinely moved. Samuel led Clara down the aisle, out the doors, into spring sunlight. Behind them, old Moses began clapping. Slowly, others joined. Not all, but enough. Outside, Samuel lifted Clara into his wagon. Let's go home. The word meant something different now. Something built, not found. They rode out of town together, hand in hand. June. The garden bloomed in wild abundance, tomatoes ripening red, beans climbing their poles, squash sprawling across tilled earth, the work of their hands, growing. Evening. Golden light slanted across the porch where 2 rocking chairs sat close, runners nearly touching. Clara read aloud from a novel. Samuel half listened, mostly watched her face, all of its scars and beauty. Inseparable now. She'd stopped hiding, wore her hair back, met the world direct. You're not listening, she accused, smiling. I'm listening to your voice. That counts. She closed the book, set it aside. I made rhubarb pie from our garden. Our garden. He liked how that sounded. Plural. Shared. They'd settled into rhythms. Mornings she woke to coffee already made his gift. Evenings he found his clothes mended hers. They worked the land side by side, slept in the same bed now, healing through presence and patience. The bedroom door stayed open. No more hiding. Sundays. They had visitors now. Mrs. Hartwell had come with genuine apology and a preserves recipe. Young couples asked Clara's homesteading advice. The town gossip had shifted from scandal to grudging respect to genuine admiration. Even Marcus Dalton nodded when they passed. Didn't smile, but didn't sneer either. They were no longer spectacle. They were example. Clara's mother's quilt, the one she'd left behind when she fled, now draped across both their shoulders as they sat watching fireflies rise from the meadow. Samuel traced the stitching. Your mother would be proud. Yours too. They'd stopped apologizing for the past, started building toward future. Next year, Samuel said, we'll plant twice as much, maybe add chickens. Clara's hand found his. Maybe a child. He went still, hope naked on his face. Maybe, she confirmed softly. The future, once terrifying, now beckoned. Not promised, nothing was promised, but possible. And possibility was enough. Stars emerged, pinpricks in deepening blue. The ranch house glowed warm behind them, windows lit, smoke curling from chimney, garden thriving in twilight. Two people who'd arrived broken had built something whole, not despite their scars, but because of them. Pain had taught them the value of tenderness. Loss had taught them the courage of hope. Samuel pulled Clara closer. She leaned into him, complete. The marriage license hung framed in the kitchen, now signed, witnessed, official. But the real covenant was written in dirt and seed, and choosing to stay when leaving seemed easier. Do you ever regret it? Clara asked. That first day, not sending me back? Samuel was quiet a moment. Then, every day, she stiffened. I regret every day I wasted being afraid. He continued. Should have loved you from that first moment. Clara kissed him then, long and deep and unashamed. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. Worth the wait? She asked. Worth everything. They sat in comfortable silence as night settled. The ranch breathed easy around them. Land and home and partnership. All learned the hard way. Spring had come late that year to Crawford Ranch, but when it arrived slow and sure and earned through trial, it stayed. And so did they. The end.